and welcome to this video on I'm not quite sure what it's on. Astrologer meets tarot reader meets mystic, I think, is one of the titles we might use for this, but also the importance of getting your birth chart read. I'm so excited because I have the lovely Liz Nagle back, who a lot of you will already know, but also I've got Amy Bird with us, and Liz and I are so excited to talk to Amy as our friend and astrologer. Okay, now anyone that's been following for a while will know that when this card comes up, the Wheel of Fortune, it's a destiny card. And it's all about self-realization and our destiny and what does it mean and what are we here to do. And there are many ways that we can find out things about ourselves. We can use the soul profile, which of course I offer. We can use gene keys, which Liz is newly into. There's lots of different ways, but one of the biggest and best ways and one of the biggest paths to enlightenment, of course, is astrology and getting your birth chart read. Both Liz and I have had our charts read by the lovely Amy, and I just really wanted to, for an absolute beginner, from a beginner's point of view, why is it so important? I'm going to start with you, Amy, if that's all right. Although I should give you time to introduce yourselves, shouldn't I? Look at me, I'm so excited. Amy, do you want to just say a couple of things to introduce yourself?
Yeah. I've been studying astrology for many years. I think it was a gift from my mum, basically. And then it took a kind of like a big heartbreak, and that led me to kind of doing it properly, really. And I think, you know, these gateway moments that seemingly are the worst moments of our lives, or feel like the worst moment of our life, can actually lead to something much bigger and better. And then I really started really seriously practicing it after a very big life-changing experience, basically, where I smashed into a tree and broke my heel and was forced to come home from America. But in that moment, Pluto was square Pluto for me in that moment. And I'm an evolutionary astrologer that focuses very much on Pluto, and I honestly feel like that was destined on so many levels, because it kick-started me and put me back on my path. But also the astrologer in me got to really truly experience the power of Pluto square Pluto, and that was quite a transformation moment. So yeah. And yeah, I love astrology. It's my passion, it's my hobby. It's a way of being in some ways, and I'm very happy to share it with people.
And we're very happy that you share it with us too. Yeah, and it is a way of life, isn't it? Because you probably think in astrology like I think in tarot. So yeah, and that's brilliant. And of course, Amy's and Liz's contact details will be in the description. So Liz, do you want to give us a brief introduction to you for anyone that hasn't met you before?
Hi, I'm Liz, and what do I do? Deborah refers to me as a mystic. I'm I guess, yeah, in the humblest forms, that's what I do. That's how I think.
That's what you are.
Who I am. What else do you want to know?
Well, we could say that check out self-mastery with
check out
if you want to do that, because there is a section on my channel called Self-Mastery with Liz Nagle, and the very first one of those is where we chatted about you and your your stages of awakening and things like that. So
yes. So if you want to know more about me, go to Deborah's channel. Thank you.
All of the videos.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So now we can dive straight in. So but what I really want to start off with before we go free falling is because you could tell when you started talking, the passion, Amy, the passion. Of course, I've watched some of your videos and some of the interviews you've done before as well, and it's like you're channeling when you talk about astrology. It's you are actually channeling, because you can see how your face relaxes, your body relaxes, but your passion rises, you know. And we know that if we want anything done well, we need to go to someone who's passionate about it. And that's one of the beautiful things about this new paradigm that we're creating, is that we're going to people who are not only experts, but people who are really passionate about what they do. So I am always recommending to people to get their birth chart read. Now, obviously, astrology and your birth chart, you can keep reading it and keep seeing the relevance of it and keep your eye on what's going on astrologically, and be updated literally every minute of every day. But can we just wind it back to somebody who's completely new to this, somebody who is beginning to understand the importance of astrology, is beginning to understand the importance of self-realization, because of course these big questions, we're going through a great awakening, and we have these big questions that I guess we had all our life, which is like, who am I? What am I doing here? What's going on? And now we know, and it's brilliant, and it's just a massive turnaround when you can actually answer those questions. How, my first question to you, Amy, is how can getting your birth chart read help someone completely new to this? What kind of information, and what would you say were the most important aspects to look for when someone is having their birth chart read for the very first time?
Okay, so for someone who's having their birth chart read for the first time, basically, to give you the reason for it almost, and why it can be helpful, that is that, like, well, to go to the nitty gritty of it, in order to have your birth chart done, then you would need your time of birth as exact as possible, your date of birth and your place of birth. That's the only information I need, basically. And I think that what I have found that it does is make the unconscious conscious. It can really help people through looking into their chart to kind of understand and to validate what we already know about ourselves anyway. A lot of people know about themselves, we know who we are, but there is something about the objectivity of the birth chart, I think, of the way it kind of like highlights what we're working on in this lifetime, really, and what the main focus is. And it can really help people to see more clearly the path towards growth. And that's the kind of astrology that I do. That's why I'm so passionate, is because it does give a sense of where we're headed and where we're going and what we have to learn in this lifetime, and where our growth is, and where our growth lies is in, and that is the nodes of the moon, which are quite prevalent at the moment, actually. I look at the nodes of the moon quite a lot within the birth chart, and the North Node represents, where our greatest fear is, and our greatest growth, and our greatest yearning, all at the same time. So what we yearn for is also represents quite a difficult path in some ways for some of us. Some of us get to our North Node really easily, but some of us are still working our way there. So yeah. I mean, I look at the sun and the moon and the rising sign and things like that, in terms of, the sun being our purpose in life, the moon being our our emotions and our mother. But predominantly for me, Pluto and the nodes, which are very, very prevalent at the moment in the cosmos and are affecting us all in this here and now, that is my passion, and that is where I put my main focus in the chart. Pluto being the soul, and where we're more compulsively led, and where we're learning a lot of life lessons in this lifetime. And the nodes being, the South Node being our kind of comfort zone, where we can get a bit stuck, where we do have some superpowers that we can take from this South Node, but it often plays out early in life. And when I do charts with people who have, even if I just did the nodes, if I did a whole reading for 90 minutes on the nodes, a person would get a lot out of the reading, because the South Node represents the childhood, what plays out in early life, and also where we can get a bit, I don't know, it's like comfortable there. Whereas the North Node, as I said, that's our growth. And so the aim of what I do with the chart, I suppose, is to, one, honor people's story, to be honest, honor what you might have been through in your life. And some of our childhoods were maybe not so easy, maybe some were easy, but to honor that, but also to get very excited about the potential, and what we've learned in our life through those experiences. And if it wasn't difficult, then they can go on to become our superpowers, you know. And so I hope that I get people excited about themselves, really, and their own potential, and who they are, and feel validated in who they are. I hope that answers the question. I don't know if it was
definitely
precise.
Definitely.
Yeah,
No, so yeah, Liz, yeah, please.
Sorry, you absolutely do that, you know, and you're so spot on as well. It's like, it's so revealing. But just to give you something to work with, if you wanted to talk about it, my Pluto is on my midheaven at the moment. Pluto is on my midheaven at this moment in time, and my north node is square to the north node.
Yes.
Or it's exactly opposite. It's exactly like on the freaking. I think that it may be a degree out, but I like.
So basically, Pluto is squaring the nodes, your nodes at the moment.
Well, it is, but yes, it is. And the north, yes, is
and
squaring
on the
and so the north node is exactly opposite my north node. So yes, my south, the north node is on my south node.
Got you. Yes,
so I'm exactly the opposite of the collective.
You're having your nodal opposition.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I knew you'd have the right vocabulary. but also because the planet is, the north node is in Taurus or Aries.
Aries and Libra now.
Yes. So, and mine is the opposite way around. My south node is in Aries and my north node is in Libra. So I'm exactly opposite to the world, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important to look back to about 18 years ago and see that there will be a theme from your last nodal opposition. Often they play out quite a lot. The similar theme will come through. And the interesting thing about Pluto squaring the nodes, which means, and Pluto being on the midheaven at the moment, the midheaven is our destiny. It's where we're going in our life. On a kind of a more of a mundane level, it's our kind of ego in the outer world. It's how we're seen in the outer world. It's the line that marks the beginning of the 10th house of career and our conditioning, what society's told us we're supposed to be. And you've got Pluto, the planet of transformation, sitting on top of it, going, basically, it's time to have some kind of a big transformation. And I'm finding with, obviously with Pluto squaring your nodes at the moment as well, this would be a time of reckoning for you. This is a time to really look in the ugly mirror and look underneath the carpet and get things out from underneath there and be, brutally honest and face the shadows and what amazing potential for soul growth you've got. It's like the Pluto and the nodes are trying to kind of move you towards your north node of that Libra north node, to go out there and be with people. Aries is the loner. The south node in Aries is the one that is okay doing things on their own, got used to being quite independent and quiet, and it's okay to be on my own. But that people thing, oh goodness, Libra says get out there and be with the people, and Pluto will be giving you some big lessons in that area at the moment, I should imagine. And also it is, I feel, for all of us, and for you mostly, Liz, because it's so pertinent to you, we're all being given a chance to kind of take a very big step forward in our evolution. anytime, I mean, I've just mentioned that Pluto and the node, I'm passionate about those two, and we just happen to have that in the cosmos right now.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's such an opportunity but it's not easy, and soul growth is not necessarily easy, but it does give us the opportunity to face some quite gnarly material that we might prefer not to. But if it stays there, then it festers.
Yeah.
And we don't want things festering. So it's time to just bring it out and be completely, as I said, brutally honest with ourselves. And I'm not sure how that plays in with you at the moment with regard to trying to get to that North Node. And with regard to like you in the public eye. I mean, Pluto is power. So it's about to go into the 10th house, the most public house of all. It's at the top of your chart. It's saying transform. There could be a death and a rebirth of you in the eyes of the world. Or the other thing that's happening, of course, is that you've got the midheaven up here, which is where Pluto is. But it's the line following down is the IC, and that's the family line. So this is a very personal line for you. And I'm about to have the same thing happen next year. So I'm following you. And it's
Oops.
I'm like, I'm watching you. So what might happen in your personal inner and outer life is what I'm saying, you know. Are you feeling a sense of transformation? Are you feeling
I am, but it's subtle things, you know. It's not, I haven't had any major crashes or well, you know, it's at this point in my journey, I think I've gone through a lot of major crashes. So so the crashes now don't seem so major. Maybe they would have been, you know, 10 years ago. But at the moment, now I'm kind of, you know, here's another, wart to look at or whatever. I don't resist it. And it's the resistance that causes the pain. So I don't resist. So, you know, I just look at the wart. I go, oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, okay. You know,
you navigate your life with ease and grace.
I do my best, not always, but I do my best. You know, you mentioned the gene keys there. Are you familiar with the gene keys, Amy?
A little bit, but I haven't delved into them. I feel like they've popped up a couple of times recently.
Yes, me too. It's really come into its fore, and I think it's a really excellent way for me anyway to look at in the ugly mirror, you know, because every gene key has a shadow to be contemplated, and the gift, and then the siddhi is the true core gift of that gene key. So I think it's very timely that it suddenly has popped up into my reality at the moment, and I'm getting very passionate about it as well.
Yeah.
It's like I light up. It's like I can breathe fresh air when I listen to it, or I look into it. It's like, there's another little kernel of, you know, grit that I need to contemplate, that I need to just look at. And Richard Rudd says the way to transcend duality is there's three aspects: allowance, acceptance, and embracing. So when I look at my grits, or my, you know, the shadow, the ugly bits, I have to see them and allow that they're there, you know, and allow them to be there also, not reject them, allow them to be in my life. And then accept that they're there. And then integrate it somehow, embrace it, not embrace it in a way that it's like, oh, that's great, I have that wart, you know. But it's like, it's part of me. It's made me who I am. And now that I'm more aware of it, I can take the gift from it rather than act it out unconsciously. I can, you know, raise it to the higher vibration, to the upper room, as Paul Selig says, the other person I'm passionate about. You know, raise it to the upper room, raise it to the higher vibration, the higher octave, you know, so that it's not being expressed through me and in its lowest density. So when I do that, when I'm open to doing that, I'm not saying I always manage to do it, but when I'm open to doing that, then those areas don't seem so ugly. It's more fun, you know. It's more like, here's another
game.
Yeah, it's another game, or it's another humbling, you know, what we were talking about yesterday, Deborah. It's another little notch off my ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And I'm
Yeah.
seeing that as well, because Liz does a fortnightly satsang, and yesterday we were listening at her satsang to one of the gene keys, and it's interesting because, like Liz said, it's you've got the shadow, and I don't know the word they use for the opposite of the shadow.
The city.
That's the highest point. What's the
gift?
The gift.
Yeah, is in the
you've
middle.
got the gift, and then you've got the shadow. But it reminds me of Liz's teachings, of where you have everything on a line. They're actually the same thing, but differing degrees. So the one we listened to yesterday was arrogance to humility, and the way you view them is, well, the way I was looking at it is that it's all the same thing. It's like temperature, isn't it? It's like light and dark and hot and cold. They're all the same thing on this spectrum, and we just use words to talk about what degree on that spectrum. And that's what I think we are, because, and I'm thinking if it's the same with actually astrology as well, because it's similar in tarot, whereby, you know, and the same with the soul profiles that I read, with the soul realignment, there's energies. You see, I think what it is they're energies, and every energy has a negative and positive polarity, and you can experience that energy anywhere on that line. And when we're unconscious, so usually in our younger days, we're very often experiencing the negative polarity of these energies. And it's like with the soul profiles, I'm often saying to clients, and it was the same for me, our gifts can often work against us when we're unaware of the fact that they are a gift. And I'm always passing on messages that say the importance of creating conscious channels within our life, whereby we can consciously express those energies, those qualities in their positive polarity. Do you see what I mean? So like every planet and every sign and every card and every, you know, has the flip side and the good side, you know, and it's all an interpretation, isn't it? You know, but I think it's not so much an interpretation as I think it's in your level of consciousness, because the more conscious you become, the more you can consciously express the positive polarity, which is why I think Liz was, you know, you were saying, you know, these difficult things can get gnarly. You were saying, Amy, can get gnarly and what have you, and Liz isn't really experiencing that because you're consciously creating the positive experience from them all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking about a spiral, like that's kind of how I describe the birth chart to people. Like you know, if you have your birth chart done when you're 20 years old compared to when you're 70 years old, hopefully there is a very big difference in your consciousness and your understanding. And that, but I kind of do feel like we're kind of constantly revolving upwards, kind of around and around in a spiral. And yes, consciousness makes a huge difference. And where when we're younger, that Pluto experience could be some kind of massive, like, death rebirth of self, you know, really huge. The more kind of work one's done and the more you've raised your vibration and your consciousness, and then it will be experienced in a not so extreme form. And also I think that, to use Pluto as an example, Pluto itself can really, if we use it as a tool, it gives us a lot of insight into ourselves. And so it can be, you know, what I recognize when I've had Pluto transits, that it gives me the capacity to kind of really look at myself very honestly, and to see my kind of compulsions a little bit more clearly, and to understand what may need to change, or where I may be still struggling a little bit. But as you say, Liz, it's becoming gentler with age, because, and that's where I love astrology, and that's where I use those transits. Say I had Pluto square Mars a little while back, and I looked at it ahead of time and thought, oh my goodness, Pluto square Mars. Mars is the warrior, it's anger, it's rage. Put the two together, oh, I could end up like, you know, seething. And what actually happened was that it gave me a lot of insight into how I assert myself or don't assert myself, Mars, and how anger plays out in my experience. So it wasn't this big, oh my goodness, I'm a raging fiend. It was more, all right, okay, this is an opportunity. And that's what I mean about the making the unconscious conscious. I was going through that experience of having a bit of anger come up and needing to assert myself. But because I knew about that transit, I kind of could see it from another perspective almost, and understand fully that that's what I was going through. And that's the beauty, Liz, of what you're experiencing at the moment as well. I mean, and it's what I found interesting is that the gene keys has popped up for you, because when Pluto goes over an angle, say it be an ascendant or the midheaven or the descendant, it's very significant, and it can bring something new into our lives, you know. And you're using it in the public eye, the theme of shadow, with this shadow and gifts. And I was quite interested in when you talked about you just said it, Deborah, arrogance to humility, right? Which I feel is very pertinent to you, Liz, because you're so very humble. But so well, you mentioned a city, but what's the city of it? If there's the gift,
the city is the humility.
The city is the humility.
I'm trying to remember what the gift was. Hold on a second. You talk amongst yourselves there. I'll find it.
So that wasn't the gift, it was the city.
Yes.
But the polarity, so it almost is the polarity to it. I mean, because astrology also is a bunch of polarities in terms of, you know, you have, say, Cancer on one hand is very emotional and family based, and then Capricorn on the other hand is more career based and outer world and parental in some ways. So there's polarities within this, but that's not the same as what we're talking about here. We're talking about
it's a pathway.
It's the shadow and the light of a particular quality.
Yes, it's a pathway. So arrogance, leadership, humility.
Okay.
So so the leadership thing, it's when you okay, so if you're in the lower densities of arrogance. I mean, there isn't, the higher one is humility, but you know, even it, you know, there's degrees. So arrogance can be standing up for yourself, you know, and standing in your power, and speaking your truth. I think that was the other, it's speaking your truth. This gene key is about speaking your truth.
Yeah.
And so that can come across. You can do that very arrogantly, or you can do it humbly, or you can use that and in leadership, you know. But really, you know, what we need less of is arrogant leaders who think they know best. We need people who are reluctantly, humbly, you know, they end up as leaders. They lead from from behind, you know. They lead by being inspiring. And that, to me, that this is my North Node, you know. It's going from arrogance to humility. And arrogance is one it's actually not one of my gene codes. It's just another one, but it's in there. But one of my gene codes is going from vanity to purity. And vanity and arrogance are sort of similar. In vanity isn't talking about how beautiful, you know, you might think you are, or how perfect you might think you are. Although it's that, but it's that on the surface. But it, from a spiritual perspective, vanity is thinking that I'm separate, that I'm different, that I'm, you know,
something special about me.
Something special, or even something unworthy, you know, that I'm not part of the whole. I'm somehow, I'm separate. I'm not from this planet. How many times do we hear people saying that? I think I was born on the wrong planet. I don't think I'm from here. I don't fit in. And that's vanity. That's also arrogance, you know, to think that nature's made a mistake somewhere. You know, nature doesn't make mistakes. You were saying this earlier before we came on. You know, there are no mistakes in nature. You're not here by accident. You are part of the whole. And so, yeah, so I got a bit lost, but yeah, the finding the gene keys now is for me, I think, really important for getting to those little gritty bits. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Arrogance, like vanity, they're sort of the last things to fall away. You can't actually make them go, because as soon as you think, oh, I'm going to master that, that's arrogance. As soon as you think, I have no arrogance, or I'm not vain at all, that's vanity, that's arrogance. You know, it's like, so it has to just fall away without you noticing. You know, that's life. And that, you know, that's humbling in itself. That's humbling. You know, I can't do this. I can't be more, I can't be less vain or less arrogant, or, you know, without, than I am, you know. I'm at the level of that I'm at. I am who I am, and that's it. And I have to just be there and say thank you. Yeah.
Well, there is kind of some judgment going on, isn't there, when we talk about the shadow and the gift? You know, it's always like, you know, oh, the gift is up here and the shadow is something, you know. It's like, well, like you say, if you can just observe and identify, and stop making an effort, because nature, the universe, will push you where you need to go when you need to go there. So you don't even need to make an effort, do you? You just need to, like, observe it and deal with things as they arise and be aware. It's awareness, isn't it? Let's bring it back to that. It's absolute awareness. It's like gene keys, it's like tarot, it's like astrology. It's just raising our awareness to how things are, and then how we deal with it. And we don't need to judge ourselves or anything, but understanding where we are and how to navigate everything with ease and grace.
Yeah, just to be with it with ease and grace. You know, the North Node, it's a bit like that analogy that I had of kind of my destination is coming to me, whether I make a move or not. I'm just sitting here and it's all coming to me. My North Node is coming to me one way or another, and my South Node is pushing me one way or another. It's at my back, and you know, it's like, yeah, I can't avoid it.
You're going to
I
get
can
there
put it
anyway.
off.
Yeah.
I can be unconscious of it, but I get there.
Yeah.
But I think it's really, it's like having the heads up though, isn't it? Because when I first learned about my North Node, it was kind of interesting because I had just started, well, the garden retreat, and I had just got into this, you know, kind of like promoting people that are really passionate, not because they needed promoting, but because I just loved sharing, you know, their passions. I mean, I just love, I'm passionate about talking to passionate people and getting other people to see passionate people and stuff like that. So and then that's when we started the self-mastery with Liz and stuff like that. And it was then that I found out about my North Node, which was about shining light on other people rather than my Sagittarian South Node of me, you know. But it was nice for me, like Liz says, you know, obviously my South Node was pushing me and my North Node was pulling me there. So what was lovely was when you find that out astrologically, and then you can reflect and go, oh my God, that's what I'm doing, you know. And it's like, oh, that explains why I'm so passionate about this and this, you know. And that's a lovely way to do it, because it's like confirmation that well, as if we need confirmation that our passions are guiding us. Our passions are guiding us. And that's, you know, I always think of these souls up there that are like, how are we going to get these humans to do what they came here to do? Well, let's make their gift so exciting, so much fun, that they're going to want to do nothing but share their passions. And then what did we do? We got sucked into the density where we were told by our parents that you could just, you know, Sunday afternoons, you can do your hobby. But you've got to go and work and struggle and do all these things, you know. But yeah, our passions are our signposts, aren't they? But yeah, that kind of thing, it's lovely, because if you are feeling stuck at all, or if you are in resistance to that push, you know, Liz also talks about a glacier at our back that's constantly pushing us, you know, Mother Nature, whatever, the universe, whatever, South Node, whatever, you know, but we are always being pushed, aren't we? And it can make us feel resistant. So if you are feeling a little bit stuck or a little bit resistant, then, you know, this is where we need to reach out to these tools of self-realization, and you have to resonate with it. I mean, I'm really happy that Liz is so into the gene keys, because I guess we'll listen to more of it at her satsangs, and I super benefited from listening to it yesterday. So but I'm not feeling the passion to do all of that myself. I'm like, yeah, Liz, you fill your boots, you do that, and then you just tell me. And it's the same with astrology, because I started
Same with astrology.
we share a book, Liz and I, an astrology for beginners book. And we sort of go through stages where we're sort of like devouring it and then stopping and what have you. And so it's like the vegetable patch, isn't it? It's like we can try all these things out, but then I just honor the people that are passionate about it, honor the people that are really making a path of enlightenment from it. And then that's why we're meant to be all serving each other, aren't we? Because, you know, it's like now it's like I don't need to study astrology because I've got Amy.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
and that's and of course I'll stick with my passion, which is tarot cards, which of course there's such a massive overlap, isn't there, between astrology and tarot. So it's definitely relevant. So yes, anything else that we want to share about astrology, or maybe about the present astrology?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about what we were just talking about with regard to the nodes, and because Pluto is currently square the nodes, what you said about resistance, because I feel that if we can, often what I find with the nodes is that it is that a certain degree of resistance that we feel, but the more you feel the resistance, actually the greater the growth. And so if you can recognize where in your life those moments of resistance are most prominent, and often I find that people do come into our life that represent our north node and are kind of like trying to kind of beckon us forward, and it's not comfortable, and I call it the squirm. It's I've the number of people I've talked to about their north node, and you see them, their body language goes all like, ooh, and you're like, ooh, this is interesting, and I recognize it in myself. But yes, I think that we're getting a big lesson in that at the moment with Pluto squared the nodes, and the nodes have just moved into Libra and Aries, the north node being in Aries, which is interesting because Libra is the south node being where we're coming from, and it's about balance and fairness, but in the shadow, talking about shadows, it can also be, it's equality in its finest form, and justice, and compromise. But its shadow can be codependency. It can be putting everybody else first and not thinking about ourselves. And I think that the north node in Aries can give us some lessons in taking care of our own needs, recognizing our own needs. And if we are people that are like the people pleasing types, and that think about others before self, then this is a good opportunity to do some Aries work for the next while, and to kind of what I thought about was linking the two together. Libra says it's not fair. Aries says, all right, if it's not fair, what can we do about it? Action. That's what Aries is the warrior. It's the independent part of ourselves. It's the one that will stand up and do something, the pioneer, the entrepreneur, the spark of new life. I think when I think of Aries, I think it's the first sign of the zodiac. It's a fire sign. So what is it then? It's like that little spark that can create a raging fire. And so what do we want to birth at the moment? And if there are things in that we can see in life collectively and personally that are uncomfortable or unfair, as Libra would say, then what do we do about it? And then just for 1 second to take the what's the word? The story a little bit further. Venus just went retrograde and will be until September. And when Venus is retrograde, it's the ruler of that Libra north-south node. So I've got a sense of us going backwards into our relationships somehow. Libra is the sign of relationship. Venus is going backwards. What do we need to go back over? What of our past is coloring the present? As in, how is our conditioning, our childhoods, affecting how we are in our present, and how may our past relationships be coloring the way we are in relationship now? Some relationships may need to end if we go back over it and go, you know what, this just isn't working. Some just are being questioned, and maybe some things need to be cleared in order to move forward. But there's definitely, and at the moment there's a finger of God formation, a yod, pointing at Venus. So we've got massive amount of Venus energy going on at the moment, and the relationship. So this is time to focus, I think, a little bit on how we relate to those nearest and dearest to us. So that's a little bit, there's a lot more going on, but I just feel like that's the most prevalent just at this particular here and now moment.
But Venus is also divine feminine, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, it could be tapping into our divine feminine, and it could be just the rise of the goddess and all of that. And
absolutely.
And it's a romance and beauty are all connected to Venus. So
self-worth.
the different qualities that we were talking before, which ones do you want to experience? Which ones are you going to acknowledge? It's like having the heads up on these, but also we can consciously focus on, you know, adding more romance, or, you know, appreciating the beauty, or, you know, feeling more feminine, or however that is going to be manifested in, you know, in each
or you know, taking a different perspective on past relationships, and where we gave blame, taking 100% radical responsibility for those, and you know, and being the Aryan, you know, sort of warrior, and taking on responsibility, and giving, you know, seeing things with more balance, and not so black and white, and not so narcissist, empath, victim, perpetrator sort of energy.
More the creator, yeah, taking responsibility. You would say radical responsibility. It's relevant for you, isn't it, Liz? What's coming up? But yeah, taking radical responsibility, and also being the creator, because this is something that I came up when you were talking, Amy, about North nodes as well, and about what makes people squirm when they hear it. Is very much because they're leaving their comfort zone, and getting themselves out there. And getting ourselves out there is a big.
I felt myself squirm when you said that, Amy. Out there.
It's about, yeah, but it's, well, yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, but what helped me, I think what helped me with that was Liz's teachings. You know, the every day for 2 years. There is only you. There is only you. There is no one else. When you really, really understand that there is only you creating your reality, and, you know, you have this virtual reality headset on, and you are the only person controlling what you're seeing and what's happening in front of you. Other people are coming in, but they're coming in to play a part depending on your frequency. They are responding to your frequency. If you have a frequency of love, they're going to come in and love you. And if you have a frequency somewhere of anger, jealousy, resentment, they're going to come in and create that within your reality as well. But they're actors coming in, taking a role from you. You are the energy that is creating everything. And when you understand that, although you can see what's going on, and you can see other people with their virtual reality headsets, you can't control them at all. You can try, but you can't control them at all. And they have no, you know, they can only control you if you let them, right? So it's when you understand that there is only you, you know, when you can really embody that concept, it's massive. Because for me, it was like, that's when I started my channel, was when I was just like, well, what does it matter if there's only me? What does it matter if I don't come across right, or if I don't get any followers, or if I don't look right, or how does any of that matter? What matters is that I'm expressing myself from a soul level. That's the most important thing that we can do, is to express our soul, and however that, you know, comes out. And it's usually going to be to follow your passions. It's usually going to be to create some kind of project around your passions, and to share those passions with other people. And you can only squirm if you're still in the thought process of, what do other people think of me? You know, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I can't do that. Everybody will laugh at me. Well, there is nobody else. So just get it out there. And if people do criticize you, just understand that they are reflecting back to you the parts of you that are criticizing you. So the more that you can enjoy what you do and let go of, you know, those doubts or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. It's like nothing really matters. So that, I just wanted to share that, because that really helped me get myself out there, if that's, you know, the phrase.
That's not my, it's okay, so that's not what's holding me back. What's holding me back is my South Node, and very comfortable in my little cave, in my little quiet life. And, you know, that the comfort zone is what's holding me back. It's not a fear of being out there. It's not like I'm shy or, you know.
No, but I think a lot of comfort zones, it depends. Everyone's different and everyone's got their own thing going on. But a lot of comfort zones are actually not that comfortable, because it's based out of habit, and they lack growth. But it's just that we can't see, you know, we can't see that when we're in that stage. But there was that lovely Chinese proverb that I don't know obviously in Chinese, but it means something along the lines of, if you don't move when you're meant to move, if you don't make the moves that your soul wants you to make, the universe will start making your whole reality stink for your own benefit. And the universe will push you. We saw this with me last year. You know, the universe will give you a massive kick up the backside if you don't move when you're meant to.
And that's actually, to give a really, really solid example of that, was when I did smash into the tree, because I actually had Pluto was sitting on top of my North Node at that moment, square itself. So that was Pluto, the planet of transformation, trying to pull me forward out of my stagnation. I had a very comfortable life. It was beautiful. I had lovely community around me and things were good, but I wasn't growing and I wasn't living my full potential. And I wasn't on my true path. And the signs had been there. I remember my boss saying, Amy, we love you so much. You're such an asset to this place, you know, but there's so much more to you. And I knew, but I was just ignoring it. And so I had to smash into a tree, and everything just came crashing down at that time. And that was my radical transformation. And it kind of was like, that's the cosmic kick up the bum. If we don't listen to the signs, and it was a comfortable place and an uncomfortable place, as you said. You know, I was comfortable, but I knew that I was deeply uncomfortable at the same time, and I knew that growth was imminent, but I just didn't
take. But this often happens. I mean, this often happens, especially you know, when people awaken, they awaken through accidents, are of a big way, accidents, near-death experiences, and but all sorts of things. I mean, I had what I call the tower card moment. That's what I had at the beginning of last year, you know, where I, you know, nearly lost my son and my husband, the whole works, and then where I was living, different place. I mean, you name it. It was like I was, because I thought I was comfortable where I was. You know, I was just going to go traveling with my husband. I had a little box, and I was just where my box goes, I can work wherever I go. And it was almost like I was going into semi-retirement, and the universe was like, you're not going into semi-retirement, Deborah. We haven't told you yet, but you're meant to be running the garden retreat. Oh, okay. But we'll get you there, don't worry. And it just goes like that. And then you have to have this trust, and you have to have this understanding. But this is why having your birth chart is such a massive gift, because of course it gives you the heads up. It gives you the heads up. So when you're in that situation, or, you know, hopefully you can catch it before the accident happens, but when you're in that situation, at least you know where your soul wants you to go. And at the end of the day, it might seem scary, but the only reason it seems scary is because you're human. Your human has the lack and limitation. Your human has the trapped emotions and the limiting beliefs. Your soul is free and secure and abundant and knows what's best for you. And we need to trust that our soul is taking us where we need to go, and that it will be better and more glorious and more wonderful and everything. And, you know, all the things that we thought we lost, we've actually gained more so. And we've also gained, of course, the freedom and security and the abundance and the joy and the health and the happiness and the love and all of that stuff. So just having that heads up is invaluable, I think.
Yeah, you don't know how it's going to actually manifest. You know, I couldn't have looked at Pluto where the nodes with the Pluto on the North Node and gone, okay, I'm going to smash into a tree. But what happened in me smashing into the tree meant that I couldn't work. I was forced to paint for a living. That specific thing was what was needed for everything to change. in that moment. So, but it can be, you know, okay, that's coming. Where do I know? How do I know what needs to change? You know, like I know everybody knows deep inside them, if we're honest with ourselves, where we could do better and where we could need to change. It's just whether you act on it or whether you have to wait for something to hit you over the head.
But it's interesting what you said about you were forced to paint for a living, right? Because when I read the soul profiles, one of the things that I ask is, you know, if you had 17 million or whatever in the bank, or if money was no object, how would you spend your time? And, you know, a number of people, especially those dominant in third energy center, would say painting, you know, or using color or being creative in some way, you know. They absolutely love it. And that's where their passion lies. And the problem is people can't see a way of making money from that. And so their first thought is, oh, well, I love painting, but that doesn't bring in the money. And we immediately shut it down because we can't see how we can make money from it. And, you know, so you were forced to make money from it. I mean, so it was like, well, of course you can. I mean, there are many different ways, but, you know, the other thing that keeps coming to me as well is that we've got to stop trying to fathom it out, because when we try and fathom it out, we're trying to fathom life out from our limited fourth dimensional human mind, and you're never going to get the miracles there, are you? The miracles are in your fifth dimensional soul. That knows where the miracles are. Your soul will take you to the miracles. You just have to believe in them. But things just come out of the blue, and if you don't open that channel, like get an easel, get your painting stuff, start painting, spend more time doing what you love, you know, whatever that might be. You know, just find a channel. I'm always saying to people, you know, you don't have to be making the same amount. It's like when I left the day job to do what I love, you know, the healing and that, I couldn't envisage how I could make that money, the same money, you know, that I was getting in the day job. But as it happened, I never needed to, because I had a massive mortgage, and then I sold my house and didn't have a massive mortgage. So I've never had to make that amount of money again. So, you know, but my human mind was trying to fathom out, I can't make that money. So therefore, I've got to stay in a job that I don't enjoy and not do what I love, because I, in my human mind, can't fathom it out. And then in the end, you know, your soul's just like, oh my God, you've got to leave, you've got to leave. And then you just have to trust, and you have to take that leap of faith, don't you? And then when you do it, woo! And then the universe brings you all the miracles, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I've gone off on a tangent there, sorry.
No, that was a very good tangent.
Is there anything else that we want to share? Because I've just noticing we've been on for I don't know how long, but it must be coming up for an hour.
It's over an hour probably.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, it's about an hour.
Is there anything we want to share? Liz, is there anything you want to say or share before we say goodbye?
No, just, well, only that, you know, having my natal chart, knowing about the North Nodes, and I knew nothing about Pluto before I spoke with you, Amy, and you gave me, I knew a little about the nodes, but you gave me a much more personal and relative to me perspective on the North Node, and it was very illuminating and very helpful. And I think if you know, if I'd had that knowledge when I was, you know, in school or a teenager, I would have picked different subjects. I would have gone in, you know, in a more, it would have helped decision making and choices. I think if we know basically where we're headed, you know, our destiny really is taking us in our life, it helps us. It saves us from taking the wrong turns, or not that there are any wrong turns. And, you know, there, like it would be really boring if we just went straight from South Node to North Node without any wrong turns. But it's good to take the scenic route sometimes, but it's also good to get that confirmation of right, when you're looking back, that's why that felt better and that didn't feel so good, and that's why that worked and that didn't. Yeah, it's good.
I think that's really important as well, because some people might think of it as in, oh, you're telling me what I already know, and you're telling me, like what I'm like, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right, that's what I'm like, well done, that's true. It's a bit like the soul profiles as well that I do, and it's like, no, this is not just like a personality analysis. This is actually telling you the astrology and the I would guess the gene keys as well, but the soul profiles as well. They're not just telling you like who you are and the self-realization part of it. They're confirming to you the parts of you that you came here to experience and express. And we came here to experience and express all of who we are. And when we know which parts of us we came here to experience and express, we can just throw ourselves into it and again create conscious channels whereby we can experience and express those qualities of those energies that are coming up in the birth chart or the reading or gene keys or whatever it might be.
Yeah, thank you, Liz, for saying talking about how I kind of personalized it, because that is really more and more and more and more how I have been working and wanting to work. Is that one of the first things I say to people when I start the reading is, you're the expert on your life, I'm the reader of the symbols. And I very much see it as a collaboration between the two of us, because if we work together, then I can personalize the symbols, because the symbols are broad and they could manifest in so many different ways. I want it to be relevant to you. And I'm glad that I managed that, because that's my aim and my intention. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's important as well, isn't it? Collaborating and actually working together on it. I had someone come fairly recently for a reading, and they were just like, I'm just going to sit back and hear what you have to say. And it's almost like there's an underlying test there, and it's just like, well, no, I don't work like that either. It's like, either you work with me, because these qualities, like we've already said, they can manifest in a number of different ways. So you tell me which way, floats your boat, and then I can help you,
and then it flows.
Take it to the next level, but if you're just going to sit there and listen, then you're not working together on the energies. It has to be a co-creation, doesn't it? We are all one after all.
I've had that experience before, where someone is just quite rigidly sitting there, and I clammed up, and if I see that kind of in someone, and that kind of like, not, I don't know, it's very hard to describe, then I find myself going into a very different place, and the intuition doesn't flow as well. It needs to be receptive and received and encouraged, and so yeah, so definitely needs to be.
But you just hit the nail on the head when it comes to intuition, because again, we're talking about reading energies, and how we read them is very intuitive, because there aren't words to them, we're putting words to them. And that's why every astrologer will word things differently. I mean, every tarot card reader will word things differently, because there is so much intuition that is being used. So it's good to explore the different avenues, but intuition is key. Of course it is, because basically what you're doing, and this is why when you get so passionate, I can tell that you're channeling, is because you're channeling the energy that's coming through, and that's an intuitive approach. Because the same, you can look astrologically, I guess, just at the symbols and then at the standard interpretations, you know, which would be fine. I'm sure that will get you somewhere, but it's that co-creation of tapping into someone's energy whereby you can then intuitively tap into guidance that's relevant for them. Like Liz said, what you said to her was so relevant for her, you know, and it just means that, you know, what you're offering people, Amy, is more than an astrological reading. There's I feel quite emotional saying this. I'm getting truth bumps, and it's 40 degrees here, you know. So it's but yeah, you channel an intuitive expert interpretation of astrology, and making it and tailoring it for the individual. And so it does work best for people that are open and receptive, and even open to learning. They might not know a lot.
Curious people who are curious,
open to wanting to curious and wanting to explore more of who they are. So I'll definitely put your link in the description, and hopefully because I think it will just help everybody, you know, to have some kind of deeper understanding of their own astrology.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was saying actually earlier, I was talking to someone. Earlier, it's early in the morning, but about how there are many astrologers who are really good at astrology, I'm sure, but it helps to be a people person as well, and it helps to be able to kind of read people, enjoy people, and have a kind of a therapeutic approach as well, you know, and that all lends itself to an actual reading, which is why I went from just writing. I used to write my charts. I do that now, but it's not life. That's not life. You are a living being. So the 90-minute spoken session is just, that is where the magic lies, for sure.
Yeah,
Because
and
then,
you record it all as well and send the recording, so you can always listen back. And I make sure that people record stuff as well, because you're not going to remember everything that you've said to people, and
and I couldn't take it all in. Yeah. So I've listened to it, you know, over and every few months. I listen to it, or when there's some transit that's relevant, I listen to what you said, you know. It's very interesting. You're like spot on. Yeah.
I'm interested in what Pluto's going to do for you in the next
oh dear.
Well, we'll come back.
Pardon? What did you say?
It's an 18-month cycle, so it's not going to happen overnight. It's a very slow, gradual process. So and mine's really beginning, you know, maybe around November, December-ish time. That's when it's going to really start for me. So
okay, I think you said mine will end around June next year, 2024.
Right. Okay.
So.
Well, we'll come together again at the end of the year to see what's happening with yours, Amy, and then
yes,
we could
and where I'm at.
Yeah, we could always do this again. So thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me. We could carry on forever, and we probably would, but I like to keep it, otherwise, you know, we kind of lose people. But thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.
That was so much fun.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye
you,
for
girl.
now.
Bye.